Hi, welcome back to My Mom Life. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Jordan, and today I'm showing you how to make these yummy copycat Starbucks pumpkin scones. Let's get started. Today I have a really fun video to share with you. At least in my opinion, it's fun because it is pumpkin and it is a copycat Starbucks recipe. Their scones that they have at Starbucks this time of year, they're pumpkin and they have a vanilla icing with a pumpkin icing drizzle on them. They're so yummy and I have recreated them for you today. I didn't come up with the recipe, but I kind of tweaked it. But I will have the original recipe down in the description box linked for you so that you can make these too. They are so yummy. My house smells so good right now and I cannot wait to share this recipe with you. Let's get started. Here are our ingredients to make these scones. I will show you the ingredients for the icings after we get these in the oven. So I will start over here. I have 1 stick of butter. It's cold and I have it cut into cubes. I have some buttermilk, honey, salt, 1 egg. We're gonna use some canned pumpkin. We're gonna need 1/2 cup plus a tablespoon of this. I have some brown sugar, baking powder, baking soda, vanilla, pumpkin pie spice. The recipe that I'm using calls for cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and cloves, and I'm just going to substitute some pumpkin pie spice instead of measuring all of those out, which I will leave the recipe that I'm following down below in the description box. I have some all-purpose flour and some white sugar. We're going to start with the blender and we're going to blend up our dry ingredients with our butter. So I'm going to get that out and we will get started. I wanted to let you know though that I do have my oven preheating to 425 degrees. So that will be nice and hot once our scones are ready to go in the oven. To my blender, I am going to add the flour. So we need 2 1/4 cups of flour. I'm also going to add our baking powder, baking soda, and salt. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm also going to add in the pumpkin pie spice. Like I said, it calls for all of the different spices, and I am just substituting pumpkin pie spice just to keep it easy, and I couldn't find my cloves. So I'm just going to use pumpkin pie spice, and I think I'm just going to add, I don't know, maybe 1/2 tablespoon. I want these to be nice and flavorful, so we're going to do that. About 1/2 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. And then I'm also going to add in the white sugar and brown sugar. So we need 3 tablespoons of white sugar and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now I am going to pop the lid on my blender and blend this up until it is nice and combined. And then I'm going to add in the butter, pulse it until I have little tiny pieces of butter throughout. And then we will put this in a bowl and mix up our wet ingredients with it. Now, if you don't want to do this in a blender, or this is technically a food processor slash blender, so you're really doing it in the food processor. If you don't want to do that or you don't have one, then you can definitely do this in a bowl with either a fork or a pastry cutter or pastry blender and do it that way. So I'm going to pop this on the base of my blender and get it going. Okay, I pulsed that for just a second until it was nice and combined. Hopefully you can see down in my blender that I have all of the dry ingredients combined. Now I'm going to add in the butter, and I am just going to pulse it a couple of times until it comes together. Okay, I used my blender or my food processor to combine the butter with the dry ingredients, and I have little pieces of butter all throughout. That's exactly what you want. Now I'm going to set this aside. I just dumped it into this large bowl because I will end up mixing everything together in this bowl, but I'm going to mix up my wet ingredients first and then we will add it to our dry ingredients. I have my pumpkin in this bowl. Don't mind the side, I made a mess, but I have 1/2 cup plus a tablespoon of pumpkin in here. I'm going to go ahead and add in the buttermilk, and 1 egg. I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring and about a tablespoon of honey. Okay, I'm going to give this a mix, and then we will mix this with our dry ingredients. All right, I am just going to combine the two. So I'm going to add in our wet ingredients. And then once this starts to come together, I'm going to put it on my clean countertop and knead it by hand with a little bit of flour on my counter so that it doesn't stick. This is going to make 8 scones. So if you want more than 8, you could definitely double or triple this and freeze them. This would be a super good one to freeze. Just, you could freeze it without the frosting and then add that later when you're ready to serve them. It does say that this is going to be a sticky dough, which I can already tell. So I'm going to flour my surface. I'm also going to add some flour on top just so that it doesn't stick to my hands too bad. This is very sticky. I'm just gonna need some of that flour in there because this is too sticky to try and cut into scones. So I think it definitely needs some more flour. Okay, I have my dough worked. I definitely had to add quite a bit of flour to get it to come together. So just be aware that you may need to add more flour into your dough as you're making it, or you can do it like I did and just add it in as you're working it together. But it does look beautiful now. So I am going to transfer this onto my pan. I have a pan lined with some parchment paper here. The recipe says to cut it and then transfer it, but I'm not going to do that because this is a very fragile dough. I'm afraid it's just going to fall apart. So I'm going to transfer this onto here, and then we will cut it into 8 slices or wedges. All right, I have it on my pan. So now I'm going to slice it into 8, hopefully equal slices. I sprayed my knife with some cooking spray. You could dust it with flour also, just so that it doesn't stick too bad to your dough. And in between each cut, I am going to spray it again because this is a sticky, sticky dough. Anytime you're baking with pumpkin, the dough is typically very sticky. And we have some honey in here, and so it's definitely sticky. Before I pop these in the oven, I have an egg that I beat up really good with a fork. I am just going to egg wash these. The original recipe says to brush with half and half, and I don't have any, so I am just going to use an egg. I'm just gonna lightly brush all over the dough and then pop these in the oven. It already smells really good with the pumpkin pie spice, so I'm excited for these. These are gonna bake for 12 to 15 minutes until they are golden brown and a toothpick comes out clean in the middle. So we will get these baked and then make the 2 different frostings that go on top. Okay, my scones are out of the oven and they are cooling. I will show you them in a second. First, I'm gonna make the 2 icings for our scones. So there is a regular just vanilla icing that goes on these, and then a pumpkin icing. So the first one I'm gonna make is just the plain vanilla. It's super easy. It's just powdered sugar and some milk. So I'm gonna measure out 1 cup of powdered sugar, and then I'm gonna start with 1 tablespoon of milk, And then I will add another one if I think we need it. We're definitely gonna need some more milk, so I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon. It's a lot easier to add more than it is to take away, so that's why I add a little bit at a time. Okay, that is perfect consistency because we are going to be drizzling this on top, so I'm gonna set this one aside. Now for the pumpkin icing, I'm going to measure out 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. And then for this one, we need 1 tablespoon of our pumpkin. So I'm going to get a clean tablespoon. And then I'm going to use some pumpkin pie spice to flavor this. The recipe calls for cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. But like I did earlier, I'm just going to use my pumpkin pie spice. And then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of milk. So there is our second icing. Now I am actually going to put the pumpkin icing in a piping bag, and then this one we are just gonna spread over the scones. So that's how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna grab my scones. They're completely cooled now, so I'm gonna show you those and then we will ice them up. Here are my scones. They are completely cooled off now, and I went ahead and took a knife and went down the lines that I had cut earlier so that they are separated, and they are absolutely just delicious looking. I'm gonna leave them though in this circle, and we are gonna spread on the white vanilla frosting first. So before you put the pumpkin frosting on, you wanna let this frosting set completely. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this one on and let it start setting on our scones. I did my best to evenly spread on all of that vanilla frosting. Now I'm gonna let this set for a little bit and harden before I drizzle on our pumpkin icing. Okay, I have let my vanilla icing completely set, so it is not gonna come off, or once I add my pumpkin frosting, they're not just gonna meld together and just make a mess. So now I'm gonna add on the pumpkin icing, and I'm going to put it on each scone like this. And I'm just gonna go all the way around. Here are our finished pumpkin scones. They look absolutely delicious. They smell delicious. They look so much like the Starbucks pumpkin scones. If you've never tried them, then try these at least. They are absolutely delicious. Don't forget to check the description box for the link to the recipe. Let me show you what they look like individually so you can see how moist the scones are. Here is a close-up look at what the scones look like when they're not all pushed together, so you can see how moist they are. They are super, super moist. They're not dry at all. These are absolutely delicious. I promise you will love these. If you like pumpkin, then you're gonna love this recipe. I will leave it down for you in the description box, so definitely check it out. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out a lot, and I really appreciate it. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe and stick around, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye guys.